We turn now to an issue of concern to parent and child, and increasingly the rest of us, as a private matter becomes more and more political. Here's Susan Spencer.
Meet Ava, an exuberant, happy 9-year-old.
My turn.
Perhaps it's a bit mind-bending to learn that she was born, by all appearances, a boy.
Even before she could talk, she gravitated towards all the girly toys and colors. And when she could talk, she would say, like, "I wish I was a girl."
Her parents admit it was hard to process. Their then son begging in tears to wear a dress.
I feel like I'm an open-minded person, but when it's like your son, asking you to do this, and I think I wasn't thinking about her feelings at the time. I was just thinking about how are people going to react to it.
You were afraid, a little bit afraid for her.
Yeah, I was, and I still am afraid for her.
But the North Carolina family, who asked that we not use their name, has learned to embrace a change they never saw coming.
If we continued to say no, you have to live as a boy, she would continue, she's young. I'm sure she would have done it, but we didn't want to be her first bully. We wanted to support her.
You like fashion?
Yes.
What do you like about it?
Just the way you can express yourself with it and how creative you can be with it.
And so Ava became Ava in the 2nd grade.
Yes.
She had to walk into her classroom and identify that, she had a new name and pronouns, and she was so excited. It was like Christmas.
Your mom told me a really interesting story about when you were in the 2nd grade and you introduced your friends to Ava. How was that?
It went well. They didn't treat me any different.
So now, are you who you think you should be?
Yeah, 100%.
100%. And that would be Ava?
Yeah.
It was just very clear, the difference in her once she was allowed to present as a girl. She went from being shy and anxious to, everyone remarked, she was so much more confident. She just seemed happier.
About 10% of youth these days, we think, are identifying as gender diverse. They don't quite feel like the gender they were assigned at birth.
Dr. Meredith McNamara is an assistant professor of pediatrics at Yale University. She sees transgender teens in her medical practice. Give me first a definition of transgender.
In general, it's an identity that's different from one's sex assigned at birth.
0.6% of all Americans identify as transgender, about 300,000 teenagers. At least 121,000 trans kids have been diagnosed with something called gender dysphoria, severe distress, even suicidal thoughts related to their gender identity.
It is painful to live with gender dysphoria, and it really does need medical treatment. What we're looking at right here is the established criteria for diagnosing gender dysphoria in adolescents and adults.
The guidelines deal both with when to give puberty-blocking drugs, which stave off development and buy time, and when to prescribe sex hormones, which cause permanent changes in line with gender.
This is the most careful and thoughtful type of medicine I have ever practiced.
But Americans are split on whether minors ever should be offered any treatment. One Pew poll found 46% favored making it illegal, period. And since 2021, 20 states have enacted full or partial bans.
We want to see all of America protecting children from all gender-affirming care.
Terry Schilling is president of the American Principles Project, a conservative advocacy group that promotes bans on care for minors.
I think that adults transitioning is a totally different thing than children transitioning. Children don't know what they're going to be when they get older.
Explain to me why that is a decision that should be made by the state.
The state makes all types of decisions around our children. You have to be 21 years old to smoke cigarettes. You have to be 21 years old to drink. You have to be 18 years old to get a tattoo. But we're gonna let children get cross-sex hormones?
What do you say to people who say, what's the downside of just waiting at least until a child is 18?
If parents don't want to consent to this treatment, then they shouldn't. So the problem with waiting, if that young person is in serious distress, is that distress is only going to get worse. And we do know that young people who qualify for gender-affirming care, desire it, and don't receive it have high rates of depression, anxiety, suicide attempts, and even completed suicide.
This would have been after his suicide attempt, when we just started to try to get help for him.
Ann Geddes knows firsthand what it's like to watch a trans child in a mental health crisis. Her son was born, as she puts it, biologically a girl, back in 1988.
When he was 13, he became profoundly depressed. There was a suicide attempt, and he became a severe self-injurer. We tried to find new therapists. We tried new psychiatric drugs, and he never really seemed to get better.
Geddes' new hormone treatment was an option, but
prior to his turning 18, we would not approve it.
Why not?
Because we had it backwards. We were just absolutely of the belief that we couldn't take any permanent measures until he had his mental health problems sorted out.
Her son, who declined to be interviewed but supported his mother in speaking to us, started hormone therapy on his own at 19. And Geddes says the change was dramatic.
Literally from the time he started taking testosterone, the self-injury stopped. The depression started to alleviate. He was able to go back to school. He got his 4-year degree in computer science. He's married. And he's happy.
Your whole expression changed when you started telling me what he's like today.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to him about the decision you made back then?
Yeah, he's very forgiving.
But he's acknowledging that there is something to forgive.
Yeah, that we, by not taking more drastic measures, we prolonged his suffering, and we could have lost him.
The parents of some of these children would look at you and say, if you want to protect kids, leave us alone.
We are leaving your kids alone. We are the ones that are protecting them from getting sex change procedures and puberty blocking and
they would
cross-sex
say,
hormones.
we know better than you do.
And I would tell them they don't. And then we can just deal with it in
say
politics.
That?
I'm an American citizen that gets to vote and organize people in politics. When we both disagree, then we go to the American people and make our cases to them, and we see who can pass the most laws. And right now, we're starting to win.
Oh, me. Twizzlers. I think there's a Twizzlers down here. Yes.
But families like Ava's back in North Carolina don't see this as a matter of winning or losing. For them, it's a matter of surviving.
We are afraid that more restrictions are on their way, like we are seeing in other states, because, here in North Carolina, lawmakers are kind of like seeing what will stick and what can be passed. And so it seems like we're gonna have to live in fear for a little while.